First order of business is the agenda for today. Dan moves the agenda as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Minutes from the February 8th, 2022 meeting, Planning Commission meeting. Any discussion, concerns, questions? Michelle moves approval of the minutes from the February 8th Municipal Planning Commission. All those in favor? Carried. So we have a 10:05. First, before we get to that, we'll just jump into the development applications for viewing. Any questions, concerns, discussion regarding the developments for viewing? Okay. Nigel moves the viewing, development applications. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, 3 minutes. Land use amendments. Contained in the packet were the 4 land use amendments completed by council. Any question, discussion regarding those? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, bylaw 2022-01 and bylaw 2022-02. Those 2 bylaws were approved at the last council meeting on March 1st. Okay. And then 2022-06 and 07 will be coming forward for public hearing on the 22nd.
Right. I guess we really don't have enough. That planner's report's pretty big. We really don't have enough time to discuss that, I don't think, within the next 2.5 minutes. Yeah, we'll just wait for representative from Elkwater. Okay.
Good morning, folks. It's Dan Hofer here. Can everybody hear you? I'm on the road today, so that's sorry for not being there in person.
Morning, Dan. Thank you for coming in via Zoom. Okay, so what we have here is development application 22/21. Becky, do you want to go ahead with this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you said, development permit application 22/21. The applicant is the Hatarian Brethren Church of Elkwater, and this property is located at Southeast 3110 west of the 4th. Property size is 153.74 acres, and the existing land use classification is Agricultural District 2. The proposal is for temporary extension to hours of operation for gravel crushing. The applicant is requesting approval from the Municipal Planning Commission for an amendment to the hours of operation of crushing gravel at their existing pit on a temporary basis. The applicant has started crushing at the pit at the beginning of February of this year and is requesting to be able to crush 24 hours a day from April 1st until July 31st of 2022 to assist with production. In 2018, the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board approved Development Permit 18/05 for the development of a gravel pit under 12 acres in size. A development permit condition was imposed which restricts the hours of operation for crushing from Monday to Friday between the hours of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. The applicant has obtained letters from adjacent landowners regarding the 24-hour crushing, and they have been included as part of the agenda package. In Section 8 of the Resource Extraction and Renewable Energy of the Municipal Development Plan, it states that the county recognizes the important role that the resource extraction and renewable energy plays in promoting a strong and diversified economy. As the county continues to grow, it is committed to supporting appropriate and accountable resource extraction and renewable energy development while ensuring its compatibility among human settlements and the environment. 8.1.4 policies states that the county shall require that applicants for county-approved sand and gravel resource extraction operations minimize the adverse effects the development may have on existing residents, adjacent land uses, and the environment. And under the Agricultural District 2 of the Land Use Bylaw, it states that sand and gravel and surface mineral extraction are considered a Class 2 discretionary use requiring approval of the Municipal Planning Commission. So I did head out to the site for some pictures for you guys. So this is right up on site there where the existing pit is looking north. It was quite muddy in there, so I couldn't get around to the other side for you guys, but you can see the Bull Trail road is just to the left there, and we're still looking north at the existing pit and stockpile. And just from the road, looking more to the east at the operation. And from the road again, looking south. Okay, so I'll move on to my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, and it is to approve development permit application 22/21, subject to the following conditions and with the understanding that it will be operated as outlined in the submitted application. Any changes must be submitted for approval by the Development Officer or Municipal Planning Commission. So, numbers 1 through 3 are standard conditions, and number 4 is the operator shall comply with all requirements of Alberta Environment, including a guide to the code of practice for pits and any necessary registrations, permits, or approvals. Number 5, the crushing of materials shall be permitted 24 hours a day, 7 days per week for a period not to exceed 40 consecutive days between April 6th until July 31st of 2022. And number 6, this permit is issued on a time-limited basis and will expire on August 1st of 2022. The development officer has the discretion to extend the development permit for a period of up to 2 weeks in the event of delays of unavoidable circumstances without additional approval from the Municipal Planning Commission. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Dan, would you like to speak to your application at this point?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman. The site, we've been crushing there for about 3 weeks, off and on, and the reason we've been crushing there with the use of that permit from 7 till 6 is just to see what the effect would be on the local neighbors that live close by. And I've been in close contact with those neighbors, and have a signed letter from 3 of them, which are the closest neighbors that can actually see the gravel pit. So they're happy with it. They've had no complaints of noise of any kind, and the wind's been in our favor all along, so there's no dust issues as well. But Amendment 5, 40 days of crushing. This is a fairly large project, but it's going to take quite a bit of aggregate. And I've got a local crusher in here. It's a smaller outfit, so this outfit can't crush as much as the big commercial crushers, eh? But what we're trying to do here is to support the local economy and get some money locally. So therefore, it's going to take quite a bit longer to get the job done. So I would ask that if we can make an amendment to Amendment 5 to give us some more time, so we can keep crushing for a longer period of time versus the 40 days. Other than that, I think things are looking pretty good at the pit there. We're in our boundaries. It seems like everything's working out quite fine. That's all I have to say for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dan. I'll open the floor to discussion from Planning Commission members. Michelle, go ahead.
We can leave condition 5 in there, but he can apply to extend it, can't he? Like for a couple weeks or something?
Could we have some clarification on the last 24-hour permit we gave? Becky?
So the conditions that are imposed today, number 5 and 6, are identical to what we did with the last 24-hour crushing pit that applied. So I think there was, the last pit I think needed 40 days. I think Dan is asking for more than 40 days in that 90-day window, if that answers your question.
Go ahead, Dan.
I know where Dan's trying to go with this, but we got to keep it standard across the board for all the other pits. That's why we have this in, Dan. I appreciate you got a smaller crusher, but when we're in town here and we're closer, we're just trying to keep it a standard model all the way across, and that's why this is put in at this time frame. He can still crush during the day. He just can't crush 24 hours a day after this.
You want to move it? Okay. So Dan moves approval of 22/21 as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So your development permit has been approved subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there is now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The development permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within 21 days from the date of the issue, the development permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you may discuss them. You may contact the development officer after today's meeting to discuss them. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Have a great afternoon, a great day.
You too.
Bye for now.
Yeah, to get the planning commission, he's almost going to have to do it very shortly after starting.
But he also gets to go during the day too.
Yeah, I understand that bit. But yeah, if you think about it, we only meet every 30 days, right?
Oh,
So he almost has to apply for an extension right away
yeah.
if he wants to continue on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which may become a bit of an issue, but we may have to adjust it to 60 days if nobody complains. But this way, if somebody complains, at least you've got something. You've got a definite time period.
We do. And we're staying consistent with what we've done for other gravel pits.
Exactly. So next on the agenda we have Davis Excavating and Contracting. Are you here for that? No? I see that, okay. All right, so Danielle, can you hear us?
I can, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us today. So we have development application 22/10. Go ahead, Becky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So development permit application 22/10. The owner applicant is Davis Excavating and Contracting Limited. This is located at Plan 2010506 Block Y, Lot 1, and the municipal address is 146 2nd Avenue here in Dunmore. Property size is 1.01 acres, and the land use classification is Hamlet Commercial District. And the proposal is to operate an excavating and contract business called Davis Excavating and Contracting Limited, utilizing the existing building and yard. The applicant is proposing a business in Cypress County for the Municipal Planning Commission's consideration that specializes in excavation and earthworks, providing services in southern Alberta and Saskatchewan. The intent is to utilize the property for the storage of large equipment, gravel trucks, trailers, and for office space. The business is proposed to be located in an existing shop and fenced yard in the hamlet of Dunmore. As the letter of intent states, outdoor operations are anticipated to include the storage of equipment and vehicles. Inside the existing shop will be indoor storage and maintenance of the business's equipment and vehicles, and the existing office space will be utilized for bookkeeping and administrative functions. Davis Excavating and Contracting Limited will have one full-time and one part-time office employee working at the property Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It is anticipated that traffic will be intermittent depending on type and frequency of services, but would typically be limited to the beginning and the end of each workday. Due to the business being conducted off-site, customers are not expected to be coming to the property. The applicant has indicated that no advertising sign will be required at this time. Under the Land Use Bylaw 2018-04, there are no uses under Hamlet Commercial District that accommodate this use. Therefore, the MPC needs to consider if the use is consistent with the definition or general purpose of the land use district. The district is to regulate the development of commercial uses in order to achieve orderly development within the hamlet. In the Cypress County Design Guidelines, Section 9.1, General, states that Cypress County may require the developer to enter into a road use agreement to ensure the roads affected by the development are adequately maintained. In conjunction with the road use agreement, the developer will be required to provide security in the form of a performance bond to meet their obligations under the agreement. In the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan, Section 2.7, Dunmore Urban Services Area is intended to provide a secure future land base for the orderly expansion of the hamlet of Dunmore. The hamlet is considered as an alternative regional option for the development of a fully serviced community in the long term. In the Dunmore Master Area Structure Plan, Section 5.8, Development Concept Policies, states that applications for development within the Commercial Industrial District shall consider potential land use conflicts and long-term implications of the proposal on existing and future adjacent uses. Development within the Commercial Industrial District shall be a mix of compatible and complementary commercial and light industrial uses. In the Gasoline Alley Area Structure Plan, Section 4.2.1, Commercial Industrial District is intended to provide commercial uses and general services to the traveling public that require easy access to the highway and quality, plentiful parking. Adjacent to the residential areas are industrial businesses that carry out their operations such that no nuisance is created or apparent outside an enclosed building. Cypress County will consider uses compatible with residential parcels when processing development permit applications. Appropriate screening will also be required to buffer between residential uses and commercial industrial uses. I circulated the application, and the City of Medicine Hat, there were no comments received at the time of writing this report. The Town of Red Cliff replied that they have reviewed the proposed development permit application as forwarded and offers no comments. Alberta Transportation replied that a permit will not be required for the proposed development. Cypress County Public Works replied that a new access approach has been installed at the property and has been approved by Cypress County Public Works. And Cypress County Utilities replied that the property already has a water service and that sewer is the responsibility of the owner, therefore they have no concerns. And Cypress County Fire Services replied that they have reviewed the application and have no concerns with the proposed development. So I do have a few pictures. So this is from 2nd Ave looking east, and the property is on the right. You can see the access approach there. And just from 2nd Ave again looking west into the property. And so looking south, we have Highway 1 in the background. There's the existing shop and yard site. And then looking north at the yard as well. You can see a neighboring property. And then just to the other side there. So I'll move on to my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, and I have a couple options today. So option 1 is to approve development permit application 22/10, subject to the following conditions and with the understanding the business will be operated as outlined in the submitted application. Any changes to the business must be submitted for approval by the Development Officer or Municipal Planning Commission. And numbers 1 through 5 are standard conditions, so we'll jump to number 6, which is hours of operation shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. Number 7, no signs will be permitted without prior approval by Cypress County. Number 8, subject to a maximum of 2 employees. Number 9, it is the developer's responsibility to enter into a road use agreement where required by Cypress County Public Works. And number 10, subject to annual review. And option number 2 is to refuse development permit application 22/10 as the use is not consistent with the general purpose of the Hamlet Industrial District in the Land Use Bylaw 2018-04. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Becky. Danielle, would you like to speak to your application at this time?
No, I think it's represented well. We're not looking to do a full-scale business operation. The intention is to have the space is more of a lay-down area. So if our trucks are working in the area, its purpose would be meant mostly to just have them have a place to park for the time being while they're working in the area. The office operations, I currently have a home office, and so I'm hoping to be able to just do what I do, not inside my home. So I think it's represented fairly well, but I don't know if it's understood that it's not meant to be a full-scale business operation. That's not the intention. So, I mean, if that's fully understood, then great. If not, then I wanted to just address that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'll open the floor to comments from Planning Commission. Becky, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, just to add to Danielle's comments, and I probably could have put it in my report, they do have a yard in Maple Creek that they currently work out of, and that is their main area that they work from. So as Danielle's saying, this is more of an area they can utilize when they're working in the area and not in Saskatchewan.
Okay, thank you. So Danielle, you understand the conditions that we've presented here, and you're in agreement with all those as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And 2 employees is not an issue, number 9?
No, not at all. It would
Okay.
be me, and I have a part-time girl that works with me in my office, and yeah, the guys that will be actually operating the equipment that might be laying down will be driving somewhere else. So they won't be there unless they have to fix a tire at the end of the day or something, but they won't be there.
Okay, great. Any other discussion? You moving it, Lloyd? Okay, Lloyd moves approval of 22/10 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The development permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within 21 days from the date of issue, the development permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you may contact the development officer to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you, Danielle.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Okay, so next up we have 22/10, Jesse Barton. Could you take one of the chairs up front here, please? Okay, 22/14, go ahead, Becky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Development permit application 22/14, and the applicant is Jesse Barton. This is located at Plan 1612191, Block 11, Lot 1, and that's 3 Dunes Way in Desert Bloom. Property size is 849.5 meters squared, and the land use classification is Recreation Residential Resort District. The proposal is to install an in-ground swimming pool and construct a covered patio, both with the setback relaxation of 4.62 meters or 15 feet from the rear property line. The applicant is requesting approval from the Municipal Planning Commission for the installation of an in-ground swimming pool and a covered patio with a proposed setback distance of 3 meters or 9.8 feet from the rear property line. This results in a setback relaxation request of 4.62 meters or 15.1 feet. The total site coverage will exceed the maximum amount permitted. However, the applicant has supplied a stormwater management plan from a qualified engineer dated September 23rd, 2021 to support the additional hard surfacing. As the letter of intent indicates, the applicant chose Desert Bloom to build their new home due to the larger lots that can accommodate a pool. The neighborhood is well taken care of and there's plenty of space for their family to be active. The applicant has purchased an automatic lockable cover for the pool, as well as the yard will be fenced once construction is complete. In accordance with Section 9.4 of the Land Use Bylaw, Municipal Planning Commission may waive or vary development standards, notwithstanding that the proposed development does not comply with this bylaw, if in the opinion of the MPC that the development would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring properties. In the Land Use Bylaw 2018-04, under the Recreation Residential Resort District, a swimming pool and accessory buildings are considered permitted uses, providing the proposal complies with the minimum setback requirements of the district. The minimum rear yard setback for this district is 7.62 meters or 25 feet. In addition, it states that the maximum site coverage, including landscaping, is not to exceed 45% of the total lot area. Section 43.5 of the Land Use Bylaw states that consideration will be given to increasing site coverage beyond the stated maximum where the development application is supported by a stormwater management plan prepared by an accredited member of the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Alberta, which retains stormwater runoff beyond the additional site coverage on the lot by means of on-site storage or infiltration from a 1 in 100 year rain event, or by means of additional stormwater capacity in the stormwater infrastructure. Section 53 states that in all residential districts, outdoor private swimming pools shall be developed in full compliance with the Safety Codes Act. I circulated the application and we didn't receive any comments from the City of Medicine Hat. The town of Redcliffe reviewed the proposed development application as forwarded and offers no comments. And Cypress County Public Works replied that if access is required from Range Road 61A for the construction of the pool, then prior approval would be required from Public Works. The landowner would be required to pay a security to Cypress County to ensure protection of any infrastructure. So I was out to take some pictures. And the house is under construction. It was very muddy that day, so I didn't have great access to the back, but here's a look from the street looking south at the house. And with Range Road 61A there is off to the side. So we can kind of see to where the back fence is, so the proposed pool is directly behind the house. So just a bit of a shot of the backyard there. So I'll move on to my recommendation. So option 1 is to approve development permit application 2214 subject to the following conditions and with the understanding that it will be constructed as outlined in the submitted application. Any changes must be submitted for approval by the development officer or municipal planning commission. And conditions 1 through 6 are standard conditions. So number 7 is any additional hard surfacing will require prior approval by Cypress County. Number 8, access to the property from Range Road 61A for the construction of the pool requires prior approval from Cypress County Public Works. Number 9, it is the responsibility of the developer and or owner to ensure that there is no disturbance to the overland drainage right-of-way plan number 1612192. And number 10, setback relaxation of 4.62 meters or 15.1 feet from the rear property line for the proposed swimming pool and covered patio. And option number 2, Mr. Chairman, is to refuse development permit application 2214 as the proposal does not comply with the minimum setback requirements of 7.62 meters from the rear property line as stated in the Land Use Bylaw 2018-04 in the Recreation Residential Resort District. And that is my report.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. Barton, would you like to speak to your application at this time? Okay. All right, I'll open the floor to discussion. Go ahead, Dan.
Number 9, is there a right-of-way on there that we have to worry about? Or?
Sorry, Dan. Yeah, there is a overland drainage right away that runs along the back of each of those properties along that section of Desert Bloom.
Sorry. It just runs across the back then? And
Yeah.
this pool won't be close to that?
It's sitting right on the edge of that 3-meter setback, so it is outside of it.
It's outside of it?
Yeah.
That's a key thing you gotta watch out for. We can't have any, we've had a lot of problems with drainage in Desert Bloom, so we can't have that compromised in any way.
Jeffrey?
Maybe to alleviate the Planning Commission's concerns about the development staying outside of the registered right-of-way, maybe there might be some consideration by the Planning Commission for the applicant to provide some verification that, like a survey or something, that it demonstrates that the proposed construction will stay outside of the right-of-way. I just offer it for the MPC's consideration as a perhaps an additional condition.
I actually agree with that, because that's key that we don't hit that. As long as I don't have a problem doing the setback relaxation, as long as you're not encroaching on that, or encroaching on it.
Down the right away.
Yeah.
Would that be acceptable to you, Mr. Barton? Okay. Becky?
I was just going to suggest if that's the direction you wanted to go on number 9, I could just add to the end of it, verification is to be submitted to Cypress County.
Yeah, if you're
So
good
that's
with that.
amendment to number 9 then? Okay. You all right with that, Mr. Barton, too? Okay. Any further discussion regarding that? Okay, so Jeremy moves approval of 21/14 with amended conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Your development permit has been approved subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of the permit. The development permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within 21 days from the date of issue, the development permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you can contact the development officer after today's meeting to discuss them. Thank you very much. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, so we got a little bit of time before our next is at 10:45. I guess Keeling's gone, so I can't get into the planner's report. All right. Yeah, so. No, that's good. That's exciting. Boom, there you go. She probably went home right away. Uh-oh. Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll recess for a couple of minutes here.
So the March Planners Report is presented for information. Quite a bit of information under the miscellaneous section, so if there's any questions, please let us know. In regards to some of the upcoming wind projects, we're anticipating applications to be made for the May Planning Commission meeting, which would consist of the EDF Bull Trail project as well as the Res Hilda Wind project. So we're anticipating for the May MPC meeting to be quite full. So reserve your calendars for that meeting. Something like that.
Any questions? Okay, Michelle moves approval of the planner's report as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Wow, I thought we'd get into something there. It's like grade 1 class here today. Everybody's zipping out of here. So, Kayleen, the closed session portion of the agenda today, are we going to do that? So, is that going to take a lot of time?
No, I don't think so. Probably reserve about maybe 5-minute presentation and then time for questions. So I'm thinking that we can just do that at the very tail end of the meeting. Unless if we've got
Or
some
just
time before lunch.
Yeah.
If
okay.
we've got some opening.
All right, we'll just play it by ear then.
Yep.
No. Really? Should probably wear diapers too. Yeah, me. Just in case. Oh, awesome.
still a workplace hazard, and we still have to deal with this, so we can't take their $30 an hour away.
Costs us $18,000 a month. That's crap. And over the
But nobody's got COVID. Oh, wait.
they're in shutdown or lockdown right
They're
now.
probably getting sick of me. I ask like once a week. Is that ministerial order lifted yet? No.
And over and above that, because that's in the collective agreement, the government came out and recognized, oh, we gave the LPNs the $2 an hour, we didn't give it to the other ones, we should do that. So those guys have got $4 an hour.
Can you imagine the whining that's going to happen when the ministerial order actually is lifted and we get to take it away from them?
Oh, I can hear that. It's part of our life.
I did chat with Mr. Bullen last week about the conditions that were coming forward as part of the subdivision approval, and he was understanding of them, so I'm prepared to move forward with presenting. But if there's something that's maybe looking like it's going to go sideways, or if there's additional conditions that we're having to look at imposing, then we'll maybe recommend to postpone at that time. Okay. So subdivision application 21CY19 is submitted by Benchmark Geomatics on behalf of Mike Bullen. And the application is intended to subdivide a 5.31 hectare or 13.1 acres agricultural parcel from a previously subdivided quarter section for the purpose of creating a separate title. Property is contained within the southwest 3311.5 west of the 4th and is located along the Black and White Trail, approximately 0.8 kilometers south of Township Road 120. The remainder of the agricultural title contains dry land pasture and is 113.4 acres in size, and there are no oil or gas wells within 100 meters of the proposed subdivision. The applicant is proposing the subdivision to separate the parcel from the remainder of the quarter section due to a severance of the quarter by the existing SMRID reservoir and SMRID canal right-of-way. Once the parcel is subdivided, it is administration's understanding that the landowner's intent will be to sell the subdivided parcel to either an adjacent landowner or to a willing purchaser to be developed on in the future. The proposed parcel is immediately adjacent to an existing 4-lot country residential subdivision. The intention would be to gain access from the internal roadway which services the subdivision. Currently, there are 2 residential lots which have been developed and built upon, and the other lots are currently serviced by individual water wells or cisterns. The remainder of the agricultural title gains legal access from an existing access easement crossing the Northwest 33 and was executed and registered against the titles in 2016. So the quarter just to the north abutting Township Road 120, there is an access easement, and you can actually see the access road coming in through the gravel pits on the east there. Parcel is located outside of the Tri-Area IDP boundary. However, the lands lie immediately south of the potential service commercial industrial area of the Tri-Area IDP and the Township Road 120 area structure plan. The lands contained within these plan boundaries have been identified as a suitable location for commercial and industrial development. So essentially the quarter line to the north there would be the boundary of the commercial and industrial area. Furthermore, the northern boundary of the Southwest 33 is expected to be impacted to some degree when the Highway 1 realignment is constructed by Alberta Transportation. There is currently no right-of-way registered upon the Alberta land title for the future highway, and therefore the application will be referred to Alberta Transportation. The proposed subdivision would be the final title eligible to be subdivided from the quarter section without an amendment to the county's municipal development plan. A residence could still be developed on the remainder of the agricultural title, and the subdivisions located outside of the IDP boundary. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that municipalities are to identify their agricultural land and to limit fragmentation and conversion to non-agricultural uses. Under the implementation section of the plan, Section 5, Efficient Use of Land, it states that the land use framework promotes approaches to reduce the amount of land taken up by permanent or long-term development by utilizing the minimum amount of land necessary. Section 665 of the Municipal Government Act states that a subdivision authority may impose a condition that the applicant enter into an agreement with the municipality to construct or pay for the construction of a road required to give access, and to give security to ensure that the terms of the agreement are carried out. Section 6661 states that a subdivision authority may require the owner of a parcel of land that is subject of a subdivision to provide reserve. Cash in lieu is recommended on the subdivided parcel. Section 669 states that if an application for subdivision approval is made in respect of land which a deferred reserve caveat is filed, the subdivision authority may, in addition to requiring reserve, require to be provided all or part of the reserve in which a deferment was directed. If deferred reserve is provided, then the caveat must be discharged or amended. So there is an existing deferred reserve caveat for 4.85 hectares, or 11.982 acres, that was registered against the existing title that carries over from a previous subdivision in 1975. So are we all familiar with what deferred reserve means? So as a condition on subdivision approval, what the Municipal Government Act says is that as a requirement of a subdivision, we can require what's called reserve. So a reserve can take either the form of land to develop a park or playground or green space, or where a park or playground is not suitable, we can take cash in lieu instead. That goes into a fund for building parks, trails, recreational uses across Cypress County. So in this case, the Regional Planning Commission, as part of a subdivision in 1975, would have said that as part of the subdivision that's existing, we're not going to require you to pay the reserve at this time, but we're comfortable in deferring it to a future subdivision. So that's what's owing under that deferred reserve. So the deferred reserve would be the 11.982 acres, and then there's an additional amount of reserve that's additionally owing as well. So Part 2.9 road access of the subdivision regulation states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct access to a road or lawful means of access satisfactory to the subdivision authority to each lot that is created. Section 4.1.2, Land Use Policies of the Municipal Development Plan, states that the county may support the subdivision of an agricultural parcel that is fragmented by natural or man-made circumstances, as long as the subdivided parcel can demonstrate legal and physical access to a public road and conforms to the minimum parcel size requirements in the land use bylaw and the county design guidelines and construction standards. Although the parcel is eligible for subdivision under the existing agricultural district, for compatibility purposes, the Planning Commission may desire for council consideration to redistrict the lands to Country Residential District 2. However, the maximum parcel size of the district is 10 acres. Therefore, the parcels proposed would not conform to the maximum parcel area of the CR2 district. And utility easements may be required. When we circulated the application, Cypress County Finances replied that there are no local improvement plans associated with the property. The Director of Municipal Services replied that Alberta Transportation's Highway 1 and 3 future realignment functional planning study right-of-way requirements prepared by Stantec indicates that approximately half of the northern portion of the proposed subdivision area has the potential to be affected. Furthermore, it may be a requirement from Alberta Transportation that only future development that will be allowed on the proposed parcel will be for development to occur in the south portion of the proposed subdivision area. If or when the future Highway 1 realignment is built, then the proposed 13-acre subdivision area will be reduced in size to approximately half, approximately 6.5 acres, of what the subdivision application is proposing, and the property would then conform with the current Country Residential 2 district maximum parcel size of 10 acres. For information purposes, council has used its discretion in the past to deviate slightly from the maximum parcel size specified in the land use bylaw when considering land use district reclassification applications for certain properties to accommodate good planning principles and the merit of the site. This may be a similar situation that warrants that type of consideration to reclassify the property to CR2 so that the use and activities on the proposed subdivision property are more compatible with the existing adjacent country residential properties immediately to the west. Cypress County Public Works replied that access to the proposed subdivision is located near or at the end of the cul-de-sac. The existing road should be extended with a rural cul-de-sac as indicated in the Cypress County Design Guidelines to ensure bus, plow, and emergency services can turn around. Furthermore, drainage requirements should be investigated in conjunction with the cul-de-sac design. Additionally, further clarification should be obtained from the developer regarding their intentions with the remnant of the proposed parcel that's located to the south and abutting the SMRD drainage canal right-of-way. So if you notice the proposed subdivision parcel, there's the SMRD canal right-of-way that runs to the south. There is a sliver of land that connects to the black and white trail. So that is the portion that the Public Works Department is questioning. Thanks, Ingrid. Yeah, just to the south. Up a little bit. And just over to the east. Cypress County Utilities reply that there are no regional water lines in the area, therefore they have no concerns. TELUS Communications reply that they have no concerns. Equus replied that the proposed subdivision is outside of their service area. Fortis Alberta reply that they are the service provider for the area and that no easement is required. Apex reply that they have no objection to the proposed subdivision. Any relocation of existing facilities are at the expense of the developer, and payment contributions required for new gas facilities are the responsibility of the developer. City of Medicine Hat Environment, Land, and Government Relations reply that there are gas facilities within proximity to the proposed subdivision. The developer is advised that surface improvements are not permitted within the City of Medicine Hat pipeline utility right-of-way or within 100 meters of any City of Medicine Hat gas well, unless the developer applies to and receives approval from the Alberta Energy Regulator and City of Medicine Hat for a setback reduction. Any ground disturbance or surface improvements within 30 meters of the City of Medicine Hat gas pipeline or within 100 meters of any gas well requires a crossing or proximity agreement. City of Medicine Hat Electric Distribution replied that the subdivision is outside of their service area. SMRID replied that they have no objection to the proposed subdivision. However, the subdivision area will be classified as dry. If the developer wishes to use water supplied from the district for domestic purposes on the new subdivided lot, then the district will require them to set up a water co-op with the other lots, since there is more than one lot within the quarter. This involves purchasing an allotment of water and entering into a metered water conveyance agreement with the district, and all works and easements associated are at the developer's expense. Alberta Transportation replied that pursuant to Section 5.5D of the Subdivision and Development Regulation, Alberta Transportation is not a required referral. Alberta Transportation's primary objective is to allow subdivision and development of properties in a manner that will not compromise the integrity and associated safe operational use or future expansion of the provincial highway system. To that end, the applicant is advised that Highways 1 and 3 form an integral part of the national highway system, of which the ultimate service classification is freeway. Given this, Alberta Transportation's long-range freeway access management plans include a realignment of Highways 1 and 3 in the vicinity of the City of Medicine Hat. Alberta Transportation has endorsed the Highway 1 and 3 functional planning study, of which identifies an alignment and right-of-way requirements for the future corridor. Whereas the parcel to be created will be impacted, given that the timing of the realignment has yet to be determined, and to reiterate at this juncture is considered long-range, the future plans should not be a deterrent in the county's deliberations for creation of the proposed parcel. However, to ensure that the future realignment plans are not unduly compromised, any development on the parcel to be created will require the benefit of a permit from Alberta Transportation. And the Cypress County Assessor provided a market value assessment rate of $15,994.06 per hectare for money in place of reserve purposes. So my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, I have two of them. First one is approval, subject to 4 conditions. Number one, that the developer is required to make a payment to the county for money in place of municipal reserve for 4.85 hectares owing under deferred reserve caveat, and for 2.81 hectares owing for the proposed subdivision, at a rate of $1,599.41 per hectare, which is 10% of the appraised market value. And the payment is to be submitted to the county prior to the subdivision's registration with land titles. Condition number two is that the developer is required to enter into a municipal services agreement with the county for the engineer design and construction for the extension of the existing service road to accommodate and construct a cul-de-sac turnaround in order to provide the proposed parcel with direct and immediate access from the Black and White Trail. Municipal services agreement is to be executed and registered in conjunction with the subdivision with Alberta land titles. Number three is that if water is to be provided for the subdivided parcel from the SMID, then the developer is required to provide Cypress County with written evidence that the agreements have been signed. And number four is the standard condition for the developer to supply copies of utility right-of-way plans, easements, or agreements. And the alternative recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is postponement to allow the applicant to apply to Cypress County Council for a land use reclassification to Country Residential District 2. And that is my report.
Thank you. Brian, you're not here for this one, are you? Okay. I've never seen you late before, so it would have shocked me if you were. Okay, all right. Stick around. Okay, I'll open the floor to discussion. Jeremy, I think you had a good point. You want to go for it?
Just with the reclassification piece, like, does that make more sense to go to the Country Residential District 2 versus what it is now? Like, are we going to set up, you guys keep talking about the precedent here, like, is it going to open up more of a can of worms to keep it the way it is versus getting to reclassify and then go that way?
So that's the realignment, right? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, so sorry, that's what I wanted to pull up. I didn't fully hear the question, but I wanted to pull up the Highway 1 realignment drawing. Let's see if my laser pointer works. So I'll try to get around the side here. So this is Mr. Bullen's property right here, and essentially where you see that red line, that is the boundary of the future Highway 1 realignment, and then over here to the west would be that interchange. So as you can see, it would remove probably approximately half of the area that Mr. Bullen is proposing to subdivide, which, as Jeffrey has alluded to, would reduce the parcel size to more of a country residential type subdivision area. So in terms of consistency with the adjacent, we kind of think about some of the agricultural uses that can be associated under the agricultural district. So in terms of the building of accessory buildings, there's no size limitation for agricultural district. So if they wanted to build a standalone 10,000 square foot Quonset, they could do so. Whereas country residential, they have to have that residential component, and then they're also restricted in terms of their sizes. Livestock, because the parcel is under that 40 acres, there would be no additional livestock that they could have under the A2 district. So if they've got the 13-acre parcel, regardless if it's country residential or agriculture, they could have the same number of livestock. So really it kind of comes down to what they're able to develop on an agricultural district versus country residential, and that's where it could result in potential compatibility issues. And further to that, Mr. Bullen was actually approved for a land use bylaw amendment back in 2014. So that bylaw was approved, and then it was withdrawn because there was no subdivision subsequent to it. So in the past, council has approved a land use amendment for this property.
To CR2. Given it's beside a bunch of acreages already, my preference is to go CR2 with that, but I don't know what everybody else's thoughts are there. Makes more logical sense than an agricultural subdivision application.
And if you go to the CR2, are you still able to collect on the deferred reserve?
Yeah, so what happened is we would still keep the subdivision file active. So we would basically postpone the decision of this application, allow Mr. Bullen to apply to council for the land use rezoning, and then the same application we would bring forward to the Planning Commission once that process is finished.
You want to move it?
No,
Postponement?
comment.
You want to comment?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
I completely agree with what we're doing here, and we have to back it up because we don't want to go over that 10 acres. We've had people come in already and want more than 10 acres, and we've said no. But when you look at it, they're only going to get 6.5 acres. I know today it's 13, but I think we can justify doing it without getting in trouble with other decisions we've made in the past. But it needs to be changed over to the CR2.
I would agree. You want to move postponement?
I move to postpone this to try and get it rezoned to CR2.
Okay, so Jeremy moves postponement to allow the applicant to apply for land use reclassification to CR2. All those in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nice to see you, Brian. It's been a while. So subdivision 22 CY01 is submitted by Dave Eastley, and the application is intended to allow for the consolidation of an existing country residential title into the adjacent agricultural title, and to subdivide an existing agricultural parcel in order to create a property boundary adjustment. So before we go much further, I'm going to just take a second just to kind of explain what we have going on the map. So Mr. Eastley's pet park business that he owns is currently contained on the remnants of the agricultural title, so it abuts Highway 3, quarter section line comes south and then comes over towards Highway 3 over here. And what he also has is an existing country residential subdivision that's located right here. Mr. Eastley is wishing to consolidate this parcel back into the agricultural title, which would be to the south, and then to draw a new property boundary here. So what we would have is essentially one agricultural district property that would come east, south, over, and up, and then the other parcel would come to the north, south, and over. Sorry, I'm shaky. So the properties are contained within the northwest of 412-6 and are located along Highway 3, approximately 0.8 kilometers north of Township Road 120. In 2013, approval was granted to a previous landowner to create the existing country residential parcel. The intent at that time was to create an acreage to be developed upon, with the remainder of the parcel to remain as agriculture. Mr. Eastley acquired the remnant agricultural property in 2014 and has been operating the business Pet Park since that time. In 2021, the vacant country residential subdivision lot came up for sale. Mr. Eastley purchased it, and Mr. Eastley has expressed future intention to develop a residence upon the vacant acreage when the time comes to sell the business and retire. In planning for future use, Mr. Eastley has identified the importance of acquiring access to the drainage creek for irrigation purposes, which you'll see is located there to the south. Mr. Eastley also wishes to simplify access to the northwest corner of the agricultural parcel, which is physically cut off from the remainder of the quarter section due to the creek's location. As a requirement of the subdivision in 2013, an access right-of-way was registered across the frontage of each of the parcels to grant direct and immediate access from Highway 3. Therefore, it is anticipated that the parcels will continue to utilize a joint access from the highway. There are no oil or gas wells within 100 meters of the proposed subdivision boundary. And the property is identified by Alberta Culture and Tourism under the Historical Resources Act as having a high potential to contain a paleontological resource. Cypress County Council recently approved a land use reclassification to reclassify the existing country residential acreage to an agricultural land use designation. Land use reclassification does not take effect until the registration of a subdivision plan with Alberta land titles. If the application were to be approved, a residence could be developed on the proposed consolidated agricultural title. There are 2 existing residences already contained on the remnant agricultural lands where Pet Park is located, and therefore an additional residence would require discretionary consideration under the land use bylaw. And the proposed subdivision is located outside of the Tri-Area IDP boundary. So South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that municipalities are to identify their agricultural land and limit fragmentation and conversion to non-agricultural uses. The agricultural industry is the #1 renewable and sustainable resource in the South Saskatchewan region and will continue to generate substantial social, economic, environmental benefits into the future. Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act states that a subdivision authority may not require the owner of a parcel of land that is subject of a subdivision to provide reserve land or money in place of reserve if the land is to be subdivided into lots of 16 hectares or more and are to be used for agricultural purposes. Part 2.9 Road Access of the Subdivision Regulation states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct access to a road or lawful means of access satisfactory to the subdivision authority. Part 5.1 Application Referral states that the Deputy Minister of the Minister responsible for the Historical Resources Act must be referred to if any of the land that is subject of an application is adjacent to or contains, either wholly or partially, land identified in the listing of historical resources maintained by the Minister. Part 14, Distance from a Highway, states that subject to Section 16, a subdivision authority shall not, in a municipality other than a city, approve an application for subdivision if the land that is subject of the subdivision is within 1.6 kilometers of the center line of a highway right-of-way. Part 16 Waiver states that the requirements of Section 14 may be varied by the subdivision authority with the written approval of the Minister of Transportation. Section 4, Development in Agricultural Areas of the Municipal Development Plan, states that the county is committed to nurturing the agricultural industries by supporting the right to farm in the community and minimizing the fragmentation of prime agricultural land, championing agricultural diversification, and providing opportunities for value-added agriculture, agritourism, and agri-education within the county. Section 4.1 Land Use Policy states to protect better agricultural land and preserve it for agricultural purposes, to give the priority to agriculture as the most important economic activity in the municipality, to limit the impact of fragmenting agricultural land for non-ag purposes while balancing the demand for rural lifestyles, and to encourage the efficient use of agricultural parcels that are fragmented by natural or man-made features. Section 7, Natural Environment and Historical Resources of the Municipal Development Plan, states that the county should consider taking areas around water bodies, steep or unstable slopes, or other sensitive lands as environmental reserve to ensure their appropriate management and preservation in accordance with the MGA at the time of subdivision, and utility easements may be required. When we circulated the application, Cypress County Finances replied that there are no local improvement plans associated with the property. Director of Municipal Services replied that there are no further comments. Apex replied that they have no objection to the proposed subdivision. Any relocation of existing facilities are at the expense of the developer, and payment contributions required for new facilities are the responsibility of the developer. Equus replied that they have no concerns with the proposed consolidation of parcels. Equus has a service and utility right-of-way registered on this quarter. Telecommunication replied that they have no objection. City of Medicine Hat, Environment Land. Hi, Dave.
Hi.
We've got Brian here as well.
Okay.
Okay, we're just going over your report. Have
Yeah.
you been able to hear any of it?
It's taken me this long just to get this far.
Okay.
I haven't heard a word.
So what I've done is I've given an overview here, Dave. We've got Brian Monroe present for your application as well. So I've given an overview so far of what the application is intended to do. And I'm just going through what we've received from referrals that we've made to agencies.
Okay.
Okay, so if you just want to take a listen, and then the chairman will open the floor to you for any comments, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So City of Medicine Hat, Environment, Land, and Government Relations reply that there are gas facilities within proximity to the proposed subdivision. The developer is advised that surface improvements are not permitted within the City of Medicine Hat pipeline utility right-of-way or within 100 meters of any City of Medicine Hat gas wellhead unless the developer applies to and receives approval from the Alberta Energy Regulator and the City of Medicine Hat for a setback reduction. Any ground disturbance or surface improvements within 30 meters of a City of Medicine Hat gas pipeline or within 100 meters of any gas well requires a crossing proximity agreement. Fortis Alberta replied that they are the distribution wire service provider for the area and that no easement is required. SMRID replied that the district has no objection to the proposed consolidation of the existing country residential title into the adjacent title to create a property boundary adjustment. And Alberta Transportation replied that the proposal is contrary to Section 14 and subject to the requirements of Section 15.2 of the Subdivision and Development Regulation. Alberta Transportation's primary objective is to allow subdivision and development of properties in a manner that will not compromise the integrity and associated safe operational use or future expansion of the highway system. To that end, currently and as proposed, the parcel to be created and remnant land will gain access to the provincial highway system solely by way of the access right-of-way. Given this, strictly from Alberta Transportation's point of view, they do not anticipate that the creation of the property boundary adjustment as proposed would have any appreciable impact on the highway. However, the applicant should be made aware that no additional direct access to the highway will be permitted resulting from this application. Therefore, pursuant to Section 16 of the regulation, in this instance, Alberta Transportation grants a waiver of Section 14 and 15.2. The applicant would also be advised that any development within the right-of-way or within 300 meters beyond the limit of the highway or within 800 meters from the center point of the intersection of a highway and another highway would require the benefit of a permit from Alberta Transportation. The applicant is also advised that Highway 3 will be expanded to a 4-lane limited access facility in the future. Alberta Transportation will commission a functional planning study of which will identify but not be limited to an alignment for the future lanes, an access management strategy, and right-of-way requirements for the expansion. Stage 1 of the access management strategy would see removal of all direct highway access and replacement with strategically located at-grade local intersections. At that time, access to the highway may become somewhat less convenient / more circuitous. The timing of the study has yet to be determined, but the remnant land may be affected by the expansion, and a permit from Alberta Transportation will be required. And we received Public Works comments yesterday, and they replied that the proposed subdivision has direct access from Highway 3, therefore they have no concerns. And the Public Works Utilities Supervisor replied that there are most likely Westside Water Co-op lines in the area, and Westside Water Co-op should be contacted for conflicts. And we did circulate this application to the co-op for comments as part of the application. So my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is approval subject to 3 conditions. Number 1 is that the developer is required to consolidate the existing country residential title described as Plan 1312805, Block 1, Lot 1, with the adjacent agricultural title contained within Title 141225541, and the consolidation is to be completed at the time of the subdivision's registration. Number 2, the developer is required to obtain a clearance and/or approvals from Alberta Culture and Tourism as a requirement under the Historical Resources Act. A copy of the clearance and/or approvals are to be submitted to the county prior to the subdivision's registration. And number 3 is the standard condition for the developer to supply copies of any utility right-of-way plans, easements, or agreements required for affected utilities. That is my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kayleen. Mr. Monroe, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. Maybe Dave does at this time.
Okay. Mr. Eastley, do you have anything to add to your application? I see you're muted your voice. If you could just unmute that, you can probably speak to us. We can't hear you right now. Oh. You're still on mute. We can't hear you at all. Okay, well, while Mr. Eastley's working on his technical difficulties there, I'll open the floor to comments from Planning Commission. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Lloyd moves approval of 22CY01 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so your subdivision has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your subdivision approval. You're advised to begin working towards completing the necessary conditions and making arrangements to have the approved subdivided area surveyed if you have not already done so. You have 1 year from the subdivision's approval date to have met all of the approval conditions and to have the survey plan submitted to Alberta Land Titles. If you have any further questions, you may contact the planner after today's meeting. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Eastley. Too late. Go ahead. He is sitting on a box.
I grew up a little bit.
Thank you. You're dating yourself now, Brian, too. Thank you, Mr. Easley.
Hi, Dave. If you're still online, it's Kayleen here, and just wanted to let you know that we approved your subdivision this morning. So I'll contact you after our meeting today and touch base with you. So you're free to log off.
Okay, next. I see we have Mr. Hare. Can you hear us, Mr. Hare?
I have you, yep.
Okay, great. All right, so next on the agenda is development application 22/15. Go ahead, Becky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So development permit application 22/15, the applicant is Apex Utilities Incorporated. The owner of the property is Mitch and Blythe Zeller, and this property is located at Southwest 1812 to west of the 4th. Property size is 158.13 acres, and the existing land use classification is Agricultural District 2. The proposal is to install a pressure monitoring station, including the construction of an 8x10 building at an existing riser site with the setback relaxation of 20 meters or 65.6 feet from the center of Township Road 122. The applicant is requesting approval from the Municipal Planning Commission to install a pressure monitoring system to an existing riser site with a proposed setback of 20 meters or 65.6 feet from the center of Township Road 122. Therefore, setback relaxation of 20 meters or 65.6 feet has been requested. Due to the location of the existing riser and a request from the landowner, the applicant has chosen this location as most suitable for the structure. In accordance with Section 9.4 of the Land Use Bylaw, Municipal Planning Commission may waiver varied development standards, notwithstanding that the proposed development does not comply with this bylaw, if in the opinion of the MPC that the development would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring properties. In the Land Use Bylaw 2018-04, under Section 48, minimum setback requirements, it states that no part of a building or structure shall be located within 40 meters or 130 feet of the center line of any public roadway which is not designated as a provincial highway. I did circulate the application to Public Works, and they replied that if the relaxation is considered, they would prefer an extra 5-meter setback for future road upgrades. In addition, they have asked if a road approach is required at this location. So I did go out and take some pictures in sunnier times. So this is looking east on Township Road 122. And you can see the existing site there on the left. And just looking north, and of course the structure would be set back 5 meters from the fence line. And Range Road 30 is off in the distance there. And then looking west on Township Road 122 at Range Road 30 with the site on the right. So if I move on to my recommendations, Mr. Chairman, option 1 is to refuse development application 22/15 as the proposal does not comply with the minimum setback of 40 meters or 130 feet as stated in the Land Use Bylaw 2018-04 minimum setback requirements. And option number 2 is to approve development permit application 22/15 subject to the following conditions and with the understanding that it will be constructed as outlined in the submitted application. Any changes must be submitted for approval by the Development Officer or Municipal Planning Commission. Conditions 1 through 7 are all standard conditions. So we'll jump to number 8, which is a setback relaxation of 20 meters or 65.6 feet from the center of Township Road 122. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. Hare, would you like to speak to the application at this time?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that the purpose of our project here is just to continue serving the hamlet of Irvine with natural gas. TransCanada currently is supplying us with natural gas to supply about 155 customers in Irvine. They've let us know that they'll be abandoning their supply to us in 2024, and we're working with 40 Mile Gas Co-op to continue our supply to Irvine. Their supply line ends on the parcel that we're looking to build the station on. So the intent of the project is to continue supplying Irvine with gas.
Okay, thank you. Open the floor to discussion.
What is the purpose of putting the structure closer to the road? Like, why can't we move it back? What is the purpose of that?
The landowners indicated to us that they'd only be willing to enter into a surface lease agreement with us if we build the station closer to the road. They're not interested in us building the station much further out into the field just for their farming operation and difficulty in the corner of that parcel to continue their farming operation.
Is this the only site along the pipeline that you can build this structure?
Unfortunately, yeah, it is because it's where our high pressure line comes in. So it would be either on the quarter in question or just the quarter directly south. But a similar scenario would occur for us on either quarter.
That's improved pasture. That's improved pasture there, is it not, Mr. Hare? Or do you know?
I don't know. I believe it is, but I don't fully know.
Pretty sure it is.
That'd be my best guess as well.
Yeah, no, all that's been cultivated up in that area in the past. So.
Mm-hmm.
So the landowner to the south that he's talking about, is it the same landowner?
It is the same.
It's kind of got you in a corner then, doesn't he?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, and the county of 40 Mile Gas, their riser, I can't see the pictures that Becky took, but their riser they installed right close to our existing riser site on the property. So that's, I guess, the other reason to build closer as well. Is it would be less of a pipeline back to tie into the 40 mile riser there. So
I guess on the positive side of things is it is on the north side of the road, so the snow wouldn't be as much of an issue for the Township Road 122, right? Did Public Works have a look at this to see what their input was?
Those were the only comments I received. Was
Okay,
what I
other
had
than that, okay.
read you, yeah.
Okay.
Would it help if I do have an example of what the site what another site looks like? It's an 8x10 building. I think Ingrid could put that up and just give you an idea of what we're looking at there. This was sent by Apex as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's not going to cause that big of a...
Just the one. It's just the one building, the white one there.
Did Becky reword that for you, or was it Kim?
Is there a way of wording this if it does cause for snow on the road or stuff that they're liable to remove that, not us? Just because we're allowing them to build that close?
I don't think you can necessarily do it for snow drifting, but in the event of something like road widening. So if that road was ever to be improved and if the road allowance was required to be widened, we could maybe put a condition in there for widening. That if the road allowance is ever to be widened, it's at the expense of the developer to relocate that structure. But I think it would be challenging for snow drifting. I think that's where the Planning Commission has to give consideration as to if it's appropriate to grant the variance in the first place. So if the concern is that the structure is going to cause drifting, and if we're concerned about having a condition, then the location just may not be appropriate.
No gas for Irvin?
essentially, yeah, that's kind of the predicament.
That's the option? That's option C?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Could the structure be at the end of that pipeline closer to Irvin?
No, just because where 40 miles riser comes in, they did place it on the southwest of 18, well, right beside our existing facility. So that's where we have to tie in to them to continue serving Irvine with gas, unfortunately.
So doesn't your right-of-way agreement allow you to build the structure wherever you want on your right-of-way?
Not for us, because we're regulated by the Alberta Utilities Commission. So Apex and ADCO, we have to enter into surface lease agreements on top of our right-of-ways, similar to bigger oil and gas. Co-op gas associations, yes. So 40 Mile for example, they're allowed to do that, but unfortunately we're not, and we have to enter into an Alberta surface lease for anything above grade on our existing right of way.
Well, like I said, the positive side of this is on the north side of the road. So if it was on the west side of the road, then it was main road. That'd be more of an issue for me. But I mean, there are lots of these structures beside the road in irrigation country right now, so it's not like it's a. I know we're trying to get away from it. Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I personally, an 8x10 shed, there's all kinds of them in this county, and they don't create a whole lot of excess snow drifting, not as much as the trees along the ditches. So I will move approval because I think Irvin needs gas.
Okay. So Michelle moves approval for heating and 22/15. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The development permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within 21 days from the date of issue, the development permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you can contact the development officer to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you, Mr. Hare.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
So next we have Monarch Land 22/17. Do we have a representative online for that?
Yes, you do.
Oh, okay.
Hi, sorry about that. I was just trying to find a mute button. It's Corey Cuthbertson. I'm VP Monarch Land. So I'm representing the Monarch Corporation for this, I guess, this request for application.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Becky, with 22/17, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So development permit application 2217, the owner applicant is Monarch Land Limited, and the property is located at Southwest 10-12-5 west of the 4th. Property size is 76.17 acres, and the land use classification is agricultural IDP District 1. The proposal is to construct a 4-acre gravel park and go for temporary use. The applicant is requesting the Municipal Planning Commission's consideration to construct a 4-acre parking lot on the property. The intent is for a local bus company to utilize the area to park approximately 300 vehicles and transport workers to a solar construction project near Empress, Alberta. As the letter of intent states, the vehicles will be parked on location on a 10 days on, 4 days off rotation for a 9 to 10 month period during the construction of a solar project. The proposed development requires no physical structures and there will be no on-site storage. Activities would include topsoil stripping, pad leveling, reconstructing an existing approach, and the construction of an interior private access road leading to the parking lot to allow for proper motor coach access. In the Land Use Bylaw 2018-04, a parking lot is not considered as either permitted nor discretionary use under the A1 IDP district. The use falls on the discretion of the Municipal Planning Commission if the use is consistent with the definition or general purpose of the district to regulate and control urban, non-agricultural land uses within the Tri-Area IDP. In Section 6, definitions, development means a change in the intensity of use of land or building or an act done in relation to land or building that results in or is likely to result in a change in the intensity of use of the land. In the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan, Section 2.7, Dunmore Urban Services Area is intended to provide a secure future land base for the orderly expansion of the hamlet of Dunmore. The hamlet is considered as an alternative regional option for the development of a fully serviced community in the long term. In the Dunmore Master Area Structure Plan, the area is designated for residential development. It is anticipated that these lands will be developed at a lower density due to servicing challenges and potentially incompatible adjacent uses. At several locations, the planned residential is adjacent to potentially incompatible uses, and therefore at these locations, special consideration to neighborhood design, buffering, screening, and other mitigating measures will be required at the time of development. So I did circulate the application, and we did not receive any comments from the City of Medicine Hat. The Town of Red Cliff reviewed the proposed development permit application as forwarded and offers no comments. Alberta Transportation has issued a roadside development permit, number 6121-22, for the proposed development. Cypress County Fire Services replied that they have reviewed the application and have no concerns. Cypress County Public Works replied that a road approach permit will be required for any upgrades to the existing approach. So I did go take some pictures. So this is from 3rd Ave looking northwest towards the city, and there's just a shot of the existing access approach. And from the other end looking southeast, still on 3rd Avenue, to the approximate location of the proposed parking area. And just another look to the south. That's it. And then just to clarify, this property is within the hamlet boundary, just so everyone's aware, even though it is zoned the A1 IDP. So I'll move on to my recommendations, and that is to approve development permit application 22/17, subject to the following conditions and with the understanding the site will be constructed and operated as outlined in the submitted application. Any changes to the site must be submitted for approval by the Development Officer or Municipal Planning Commission. And I've got numbers 1 through 7 as standard conditions, and number 8 is it is the developer's responsibility to enter into a road use agreement where required by Cypress County Public Works. Number 9, no signs will be permitted without prior approval by Cypress County, and number 10, subject to annual review. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Would the applicant like to speak to their application at this point?
I would just like to point out that the project itself, we feel that with the rising fuel costs and everything, that the application to have a park and go makes good sense, and we hope that that would be taken in consideration because we are talking about approximately 300 people having trying to seek employment and having to work their way between Medicine Hat to Empress and back and forth each day. So we just hope that that would be taken in consideration. Also, providing the motor coaches provides a safer alternative, to have those, to keep those drivers off the road, and also to be noted that this is a temporary project. It's not meant to be a permanent project. It'll probably be about a 9 to 10 month project at this time.
Do you plan on reclamation of the site afterwards?
Actually, we are looking at the company that has put forward to do the work is actually going to reclaim a lot of the soil that we will be leveling off. And I'm not sure what we'll do afterwards. I think that'll be up for discussion as to what happens with the property.
Okay, so Dan moves approval. is there any, first of all, any other discussion before we move on to this? All right. So Dan moves approval of 22/17 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Your development permit has been approved subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The development permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within 21 days from the date of the issue, the development permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you may contact the development officer today, after today's meeting to discuss them. Thank you very much.
Thank you kindly.
Okay, so next, we're back on time. 22/28. Good job, Dan. 22/28, action environmental. Jason, I see, is that you, Jason, for this application?
Yep. Hey guys, how's everybody doing today?
Good. Okay, so we're going to move on to this one. Becky, go ahead with 22/28.
I'm actually going to refer this one over to Kayleen.
Kayleen, continue with 22/28, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Development permit 22/28 is submitted by Action Land on and Environmental on behalf of Cypress Renewable Energy Center LP. The property is located within the Northeast 32, 10-3 west of 4, and is 154.38 acres in size and is zoned A2 General Agriculture. And the proposal is for a temporary laydown yard, a setback relaxation request to 24.5 meters, or 80 feet from the center of Township Road 110. So a little bit of background. At the May 11th, 2021 meeting of the Planning Commission, Development Permit 21/80 was considered for the installation of 1 wind turbine for the Cypress Renewable Project, and as well a change in use for a temporary laydown yard during the construction phase for the project. The development permit was approved as submitted, and a copy of the permit is attached to the Planning Commission's report. Condition number 8 on that development permit states that all storage and equipment located within the temporary laydown yard are required to meet the minimum setback of 40 meters or 130 feet from the center of any Cypress County public roadway. The developer has finalized their layout for the temporary laydown yard, and as a result, it's been identified to propose to locate temporary site trailers within the minimum setback of the road. The developer proposes that the laydown yard be positioned to be set back 15.5 meters or 51 feet from the center of Township Road 110 for safety and accessibility purposes. This results in a setback relaxation request of 24.5 meters or 80 feet from the center of Township Road 110. The developer has indicated that mobilization of the laydown yard is scheduled for late March. The site trailers would be removed from the site upon commissioning of the wind power project, which is anticipated to occur in December of 2022. The proposed setback variance is a change from the original decision of the Planning Commission, and therefore the proposed setback variance is being referred to you guys for a decision. So I did head out to the site and take a couple of pictures. So this is looking from the existing approach, looking towards the west. As you can see, there is already 2 trailers that have been moved on site. They're Maztec trailers. And there's some equipment on site there as well. This is from the existing approach, looking to the east. And just another view of the west there. This is looking from the west boundary of the laydown yard, so we're looking back to the east. Again, just showing kind of a different view of the equipment and the trailers that are on site already. And just another view down Township Road 110. So the applicant did submit a site plan as well. So the site plan that's in conjunction with the development permit application does outline what is proposed to be located on that site. So there are a number of site trailers that are proposed. It looks like about 12 trailers, so an additional 10 trailers that would be moved. I did ask for the developer to confirm what the setback is of the trailers that are there currently, so I'm not sure if Jason can maybe confirm that. But in the meantime, I'll kind of review over my recommendation and the comments that we received. So in the land use bylaw, under minimum setbacks, it states that no part of a building or structure shall be located within 40 meters of the center line of any public roadway, not designated as a provincial highway. We did circulate the application to Public Works, and they replied that the request for a setback variance should be denied on the basis that the placement of the proposed temporary buildings within the minimum setback will limit site visibility for various vehicle sizes, which is a safety hazard on the public road. So therefore, my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is to refuse development permit application 22/28, as proposal does not comply with the minimum setback requirement of 40 meters from the center of Township Road 110, and permitting a lesser setback would cause site visibility concerns for traffic entering and exiting the site. And option number 2 is to approve development permit application 21/28. Conditions 1 through 4 are standard conditions. Condition number 5 would be setback relaxation of 24.5 meters or 80 feet from the center of Township Road 110 for the proposed laydown yard. And number 6, this permit is issued on a time limited basis and will expire January 31st, 2023. Upon expiration of the permit, all equipment and structures related to the laydown yard will be required to be removed unless otherwise extended by the Planning Commission. And that is my report and recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kayleen. Jason, would you like to speak to the application at this time?
Oh, yeah, sure. So just a little background, and I did confirm, Kaylee, that the buildings that are on site currently are all outside of the 40 meters. So what that is that's out there, the existing buildings, are the buildings that were used during construction in the fall of 2021 to complete approaches and roadways, ramping up for the turbine construction spring, summer 2022, which is where we're proceeding to now. So this application and these buildings and this new plot plan will be the outline of the laydown yard for the main construction of the wind farm, the actual turbines, the collector lines, and all the connections required to make sure that we get energized by the end of the calendar year. So this is the next level of the laydown yard, whereas in this fall of 21, it was just basically getting the dirt work in place before the weather changed. So we are asking for setback. It's interesting comment by Public Works that they're concerned about the site distance for the approach. Usually setback requirements are required for the distance between a permanent structure and a roadway to have a buffer to ensure safety for anyone leaving the roadway unexpectedly so that they don't hit an obstacle. We're still having, over 15-meter distance between the road and our buildings, over 50 feet. We've never been expressed by Public Works what they feel the site distance should be for an approach turning on and off without structures. Typically, site distances are distances down the road for Public Works when improving approaches, not distances within the boundaries of the property. So it's kind of a unique situation and comment that we've been presented with that is a bit of a basis for the option 1 for denial. So definitely would like to discuss that and see what concerns there are. Like I said, typically the concern with setbacks for permanent structures are safety. We discussed this quite a bit probably at this level. And this is just equipment. Layout of the buildings, the best for the construction workers to have the buildings placed where they are, instead of having the footprint of the buildings further back into the property. This is the best layout for the developer.
Thank you, Jason. I'll open the floor to discussion. Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay. We have to deal with these wind towers coming in. There's a whole bunch of them. But I'm wondering if you guys have any experience to lay down yards, like in the past, what you've done with these things? I was referring to you and Dan because you were the only two that have been
And I'm
there
just
for
trying
a
to
long
think,
time.
we've never had a setback relaxation request, I don't think, for laid on, well, I guess the previous application excluded, I mean, that's a parking lot. We gave them a relaxation, so looking down this road, I don't see the issue, but do you see it?
We don't mind typically site relaxations for development along roadways or for safety. It can be done for either lay down yards, residential, houses, construction. Usually it's got less to do with the type of operation, more to do with safety, and usually the traffic on the road is taken into consideration. So typically along major highways, site relaxation is a lot less willing to happen because it's more traffic, more dense. This road and this infrastructure, obviously it's a county road, obviously it's used by the public, but let's be honest, majority of the traffic during this period, and again, it's a temporary period that we're looking for, will be EDF and EDF personnel that would be using the road themselves. So ultimately, they're indirectly causing their own safety hazard, I guess, if that's what the discussion wants to be around.
Okay, quick question, Kaylee, do those buildings currently comply with setbacks, as they sit?
Yeah, so what Jason just confirmed for us is that the trailers that are there currently meet the 40-meter setback.
Okay.
So what we can envision is that they would be essentially 80 feet closer to the center of the township road from where they're at right now. That's the variance that they're requesting. Or sorry, it would be a 80-foot setback variance from road center.
So how far from the property line would that make it?
That would be 50 feet from
50
road
feet,
center.
like 30 foot, yeah. 50 feet from the, okay. Basically the length of one of those telephone poles plus a bit, right? Okay, go ahead, Dan.
So the question I have is EDF is renting this land off the farmer, and why can't you just stay away from the road and go back that 40 feet? I mean, what's the big deal there? They're renting the land anyhow.
We just lost you, Jason. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Barely. Nope.
No.
Yes, I'm saying if there's something there that was restricting them from going back, I'd say, okay, we got to do this to help them out. But it's wide open land behind them. They're paying to rent it. Why are we allowing it to come close to the road when move everything back and be done with it?
So why didn't we make the gravel parking pad go further back from the road then? If it's the same argument.
The gravel, the gravel pit met the parking pad didn't ask for a relaxation. They're meeting the setbacks.
Okay, right. So, okay. Thank you.
Use your mic, Dan. Sorry.
I don't want to sound rude or anything, but if they're renting the land off of that already, chances are they're going to pay more for rent than the farmer's going to make off of growing a crop off of that little bit of 80 feet back there anyhow. So.
So you can kind of see in the site picture, so you can see where the site has been prepared. So this would be, I'm using the wrong one again. This would be kind of the rear boundary of the laydown yard. Sorry, Jason, I'm just looking at one of the pictures I took on site. So there's
can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you, yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you good.
So there's almost like
Sorry about that.
a bit of a berm that's kind of built back here. So this is the area that extends in terms of their laydown area. So my guess would be that the variance is being requested due to the size of the laydown area that's being leased.
So sorry, I was just off. Would you mind me answering the original question, or?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So yeah, if you've got the plot plan layout there that Kayleen's talking about, so you're right, Dan. We have a lease for the entire 160 acres of the property. However, with that said, we've also got a lease with the landowner for a specific area of land for the laydown yard itself. So can we use the entire quarter? Well, we could, but we'd have to go back to the landowner and make a deal with that. So it's a little difficult to understand, but I'll try my best. So there's an option on the entire quarter, and then there's a lease for the area we use. So just because there's an option on the full 160-acre property doesn't mean that the lease is for the 160 acres. The lease is for the laydown yard itself. So you got to look at the laydown yard as the area that we have to use, not the full property, if that makes any sense. And so the plot plan outlines the best suitable layout for the laydown yard with the buildings, with the personnel, with the traffic, with the parking, and everything taken into consideration. Can we move it around? Could we? Sure. If this doesn't get approved, or if it gets approved with a bit of an amendment with maybe 10-meter relaxation instead, I mean, we'll work with what we have. However, this is us asking for what we would like for what our laydown yard gives us for the ability. Any alteration we can work with. It could cause some issues internally on the site, but it's not what we were looking for. So to help us out, this is what we'd like. We are flexible with this to a certain extent, but having to be pushed back the full 40 meters could cause a bit of an impact for our laydown yard itself. So my question back to the council will be, if the true concern is the visibility for the turning on and off, and 50 feet's not enough, what would be enough?
Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, if we do this, will it set a precedent for every other wind turbine company coming in here? Okay, that answers that question.
So, Mr. Chair, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the guy. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Sorry, and I'll be quick here, and then Kayleen can respond. I guess, in the past, Cypress County has certainly entertained development applications and have issued development permits for laydown yards for various construction sites, and obviously that predates, things like solar energy and wind energy, but nonetheless, we have done it. But in the past, generally, all of our laydown sites have complied with the required setback distances from the center of our local county roads. And the concern not only being for site visibility, for access in and out of the site, but also just for the materials that are being stored. And while it is for a temporary basis, sometimes we've experienced that these sites have extended beyond what their original target date has been. And so, they've been a permanent fixture on the landscape for, a longer duration than what the original project was anticipated for. So that's something that previous planning commissions also kept in mind. And so, basically, up to this point, all of our laydown yards, for the most part, have complied because of, it's not just buildings, but it's also the materials that can create the snow drifting issues as well.
You'll notice, though, we don't have any plan to have any materials in front of the buildings, between the buildings and the roads. Having the buildings located where they are will allow for products to be behind the buildings. And there's plenty of precedences by the county approving setback relaxation for temporary buildings, laydowns or not.
Nigel?
Yeah, from my point of view, setbacks were established for a valid reason originally, and at this point, we're not hearing any, to my mind, justification to why we need to vary those, so I'm prepared to move refusal.
Okay, so Nigel moves refusal of 22/28. All those in favor? So your development application has been refused because it does not comply with the county's land use bylaw. A copy of the refusal notice will be mailed to you. You will have the ability to appeal this refusal decision to the Development Appeal Board by following the instructions on the notice that you will receive. Please be aware that you will only have 3 weeks from the date of the notice to file your appeal. If you have any further questions, you may contact them, the development officer, to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, everybody.
22/23. Becky, go ahead with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So development permit application 22/23. The applicant is Hilda Wind GP Incorporated, and the owners are Brian and Elizabeth Kirschman. This property is located at Northwest 29-18-1 west of the 4th, and the size is 157.96 acres. The existing land use classification is Agricultural District 2, and the proposal is for the construction of a substation for the purpose of connection to the Hilda Wind Power Project. The applicant is requesting the Municipal Planning Commission's consideration to construct a substation to connect the 100 megawatt Hilda Wind project to the Alberta Integrated Energy System. The substation includes the transformer, switchgear, capacitor banks, and collection system. As the letter of intent states, during construction, the site will store construction materials for the substation, and upon completion, there will be no on-site storage. It is expected that during construction, the site would see approximately 30 to 40 trips completed by gravel trucks and 53-foot tractor-trailer units during construction only. Once construction is complete, limited traffic is anticipated. The applicant has indicated that they will have 10 to 15 employees while construction is being conducted, typically operating Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., with the potential to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days per week at peak. Once construction is complete, no permanent employees will be on site. In accordance with Section 9.4 of the Land Use Bylaw, the Municipal Planning Commission may waiver varied development standards, notwithstanding that the proposed development does not comply with the bylaw if, in the opinion of the MPC, that the development would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring properties. In the Land Use Bylaw 2018-04, under A2 General Agriculture, a substation is not listed as a use. Therefore, the Municipal Planning Commission needs to consider if the use is consistent with the definition or general purpose of the land use district. The general purpose of the Agricultural District 2 is to permit activities associated with primary production of agricultural goods and services and to strengthen the agricultural character of the district. In the Cypress County Design Guidelines, Section 9, Roadways, states Cypress County may require the developer to enter into a road use agreement to ensure the roads affected by the development are adequately maintained. In conjunction with the road use agreement, the developer will be required to provide security in the form of a performance bond to meet their obligations under the agreement. When I circulated the application, Alberta Transportation replied that the subject property is well removed from the provincial highway system, with access to the highway being indirect and solely by way of the local road system. Pursuant to the control lines outlined in the Public Highways Development Act and the corresponding Highway Development Control Regulations, being Alberta Regulations 242/90, a permit from Alberta Transportation is not required. Cypress County Fire replied that they have reviewed the application and have no concerns. Cypress County Utilities replied that the Hilda Raw Water Line supply line is located on the west side of Range Road 15. Since all work is proposed on the east side of Range Road 15, there are no concerns. And Cypress County Public Works replied that the road approach applications will be required to be submitted for approval. A road use agreement would also be required for project construction for Range Road 15 and Township Road 184. So if I move on to my recommendations, option 1 is to approve development permit application 22/23, subject to the following conditions and with the understanding that it will be operated as outlined in the submitted application. Any changes must be submitted for approval by the Development Officer or Municipal Planning Commission. So 1 through 6 are standard conditions. So I'll jump to number 7, which is all structures, equipment, supplies, and stockpiles are required to meet the minimum setback of 40 meters or 130 feet from the center of any Cypress County road right-of-way. Number 8, the developer is required to enter into a road use agreement with Cypress County and be in compliance with the terms of the agreement as it relates to the project to protect the county's road infrastructure. The road use agreement is to be executed with Cypress County prior to any work commencing on site or any works to upgrade or enter the county road right-of-way. As a requirement of the road use agreement, the developer will be required to provide an appropriate performance bond to ensure that the developer meets the obligations under the agreement. And number 9, the developer or applicant is required to provide an emergency response plan to Cypress County. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. Hen, would you like to speak to your application or the conditions as stated?
You know, I have to say this is my first one here with Cypress County, so I don't think I have any further comments. I understand that seems to be very complete here, and we appreciate. I mean, maybe there is one comment we'll make is if that's a question from the commission, as obviously you'll see here, we are not yet able to apply for our development permits, right? Because we're waiting just for the zoning, the land use bylaw there amendments or the change. And so we would be able to apply for development permits later on. So ideally we would have done that beforehand, so everything would have just fallen into place. But given the construction schedule very tight, in talking with the planning supervisor there, with Kayleen, we understood it was possible to apply for some permits ahead of time so that we could advance some of the construction work, because we are a bit tight on our construction schedule. And so we appreciate, you know, the possibility here. So hopefully this works. As I was saying, you know, we are trying to get construction going here in spring as early as possible. So that's, I guess, the reason why we wanted to apply for this right now, including with the temporary laydown area.
Thank you. Any discussion from Planning Commission? Go ahead, Nigel.
Can you tell me the area, like the footprint of the substation itself?
Sorry, was that the total size?
Of the actual station, yeah, within the fence, chain link fence, I assume it is.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is Scott Ward, my colleague, is he in the room? He said he would join.
Okay.
Would
you like to take one of the chairs up here, please? And then, so the mic in front of you, if you wish to talk, there's a button there you can press and speak. Hey, Patrick.
Hi there. Yeah, Scott, I was wondering if you have maybe on hand there, I could certainly find it, but the exact amount or the area, I'm not too sure of. So I don't know if you would have that information.
Press the blue button. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know, Patrick, off the top of my head. It's in the drawings that we sent over. It's something like 30 by 30 meters. So what would that be, 9?
I can jump in here, and I've got the drawing here.
We've
so
got it in front of us as well.
Yeah, so the substation itself, is 44 meters by 32 meters, roughly.
31.9 by 44. Jeremy, go ahead.
Is that an active farmyard to the southwest of this proposed area?
So on the southwest in the same quarter section?
It looks like it's across the road there.
It would be adjacent.
Adjacent?
Yes, I believe it is on the other side of the road. I have to check again here, but so not on the same quarter section where the substation is proposed, but you're saying on the other side of the road, is that right?
Yes, the map that we're looking at on the screen there, it looks like there's a farmyard that's
it would be
close to the proposed area. And I was just wondering, like, is that something that we've looked at before to get the farmers sign off around the area before we do a permit like this?
So those approvals would be done through the Alberta Utilities Commission, and those referrals would be through the Alberta Utilities Commission.
So that's their prerogative as to the location.
Right. Okay, so I think, yes, I thank you for that. I just understood now. So yes, there is a farmyard, and actually it's the same landowner. This is, you know, Brian Kirschman and Andy Kirschman. They have both their residences there, which is in the southern part of that quarter section. And so to complete the picture here, we do have AUC permit already, AUC approval for this substation location. So we just firmed it up, but it's still in an area that was permitted by the AUC. So we already have that, and they have been consulted on obviously the whole site plan, including the substation area. So for sure, they are aware of where this is and that this would be going on their land.
Thank you. Okay, so Lloyd moves approval of 22/23. All those in favor? Carried. So you've got two here, so I'll read your approval statement after the next one, and if for some reason it's not approved, then I will read a different statement. But we'll continue on with 22/24, please.
Yes, thank you. So development permit application 22/24. Again, this is for Hilda Wind, and the owners of this property are Marvin and Dorothy Bender. This is located at Southwest 13-18-2 west of the 4th, and the property size is 157.97 acres. Existing land use classification is Agricultural District 2. This proposal is for the construction of a temporary laydown yard for the purpose of servicing the Hilda Wind Power Project during construction. The applicant is requesting the Municipal Planning Commission's consideration to construct a temporary laydown yard for the storage of equipment during the construction of the Hilda Wind project. The temporary laydown yard will be the central work location for personnel during construction, as well as will be the site for the concrete batch plant. As the letter of intent states, the site will be utilized for the temporary storage of job trailers, construction supplies, parts, fuel, and staff parking. It is expected that during construction, the site would see approximately 90 trips completed by concrete trucks and approximately 100 trips by 53-foot tractor trailer units during construction only. The applicant has indicated that they will have approximately 200 employees at peak construction, typically operating Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., with the potential to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days per week at peak. Once construction is complete, the proposed laydown yard will be removed and the area restored. In accordance with Section 9.4 of the Land Use Bylaw, the Municipal Planning Commission may waive or vary development standards, notwithstanding that the proposed development does not comply with this bylaw, if in the opinion of the MPC that the development would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring properties. In the Land Use Bylaw 2018-04, under A2 General Agriculture, a substation is not listed, a laydown yard is not listed as a use. Therefore, the Municipal Planning Commission needs to consider if the use is consistent with the definition or general purpose of the land use district. The general purpose of the Agricultural District 2 is to permit activities associated with primary production of agricultural goods and services, and to strengthen the agricultural character of the district. In the Cypress County Design Guidelines, Section 9, Roadways, states that Cypress County may require the developer to enter into a road use agreement to ensure the roads affected by the development are adequately maintained. In conjunction with the road use agreement, the developer will be required to provide security in the form of a performance bond to meet their obligations under the agreement. When I circulated the application, Cypress County Fire replied that they have reviewed the application and have no concerns. Cypress County Utilities replied that they have no concerns, and Cypress County Public Works replied that road approach applications will be required to be submitted for approval. A road use agreement will be required for project construction for Township Road 182 and Range Road 21, and a minimum setback of 20 meters for equipment, materials, and buildings from the approach locations for north-south site distance. So I'll move right into my recommendation, and that is to approve development permit application 2224, subject to the following conditions and with the understanding it will be operated as outlined in the submitted application. Any changes must be submitted for approval by the Development Officer or Municipal Planning Commission. So numbers 1 through 5 are standard conditions. So number 6 is all structures, equipment, supplies, and stockpiles located within the temporary laydown yard are required to meet the minimum setback of 40 meters or 130 feet from the center of any Cypress County road right-of-way. A finalized site plan is to be submitted to Cypress County for approval prior to commencement. Number 7, the developer is required to enter into a road use agreement with Cypress County and be in compliance with the terms of the agreement as it relates to the project to protect the county's road infrastructure. The road use agreement is to be executed with Cypress County prior to any work commencing on site or any works to upgrade or enter the county road right-of-way. As a requirement of the road use agreement, the developer will be required to provide an appropriate performance bond to ensure that the developer meets the obligations under the agreement. Number 8, the applicant is responsible to mitigate noise and dust to neighboring residences during concrete batching. And number 9, the developer applicant is required to provide an emergency response plan to Cypress County. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. Hen or Mr. Ward, do you have any comments regarding this application? Okay, discussion. I'll open the floor to discussion.
Yeah, I was just going to mention maybe a couple of things. First of all, rationale is the same here for this request. So thank you again for considering in advance of development permits. It is a temporary use, so this is really only during construction. And just in case the question comes, I just looked at it to be sure, but the area we're asking for is 10 acres roughly, or just under it.
Okay. Michelle, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as long as they're all right with the conditions, I'll move approval.
Okay, so Michelle moves approval of 22/24 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permits have been approved subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permits. Since this is a discretionary use, there is now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The development permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within 21 days of the date of issue, the development permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you may contact the development officer to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Closed session. So we'll have to wait till the live coverage is done, and then we'll move into the closed session.
If it was a smaller place than this bus thing over here, they're going to use the whole thing.
projects go to the AUC first, correct? So they really do the layout and wherever they're going to be located, and then they just come back to us for rubber stamp, effectively, yeah. So, the only thing the. Yeah. There's a lot of projects out there kind of waiting in the wings. Really? Well, at $150 a barrel of oil, it's not going to get any less, is it? No, it's not there yet. Okay, I adjourn the meeting.